Lads, one of the debates that rears its head every year is about the way the championships should be structured, both football and hurling, and how the groups should be formatted and all the rest of it. So Micheal, what are your initial thoughts on it? I suppose whatever's in place, the first thing to say is that it's a decision the clubs have made.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose effectively the executive committee probably would have come with a different proposal for this year. We've come out of 2 years of COVID where I think we've had a very successful split season, a very successful format. There was a feeling among the clubs, to be fair, that that the groups of three didn't provide enough championship games, and maybe that the league format was an issue. So we had a comprehensive, I would say, consultation process, and effectively this is what we've landed on by a very narrow majority. Like, I remember the meeting the 2nd of February. I think it was 2 votes separating it, but effectively 32 clubs voted for groups of 6 first of all, and then to maintain the split season. So I think we've committed to that. We've committed to that for this year, and then I think we'll have a fairly comprehensive review at the end of this year. So there's been lots of opinions, and by the nature of the county, the dual element, that's always going to be the case. So, but it has been enjoyable so far, to be fair.
And if the people who are conducting this review came to you for your thoughts on the matter, what would you be saying to them?
Yeah, look, it's great. As a player, it must be great to play week on week, but it's very congested, I think, and 6 weeks in a row or 8 weeks in a row if you win the county championship, I think it's very congested. One thing I would change, I'd definitely have 1 week break in between, maybe after round 3. I think the semi-final, from semi-finals to final, I think the county final deserves a build-up myself, whereas the last few years the build-up was actually the semi-finals, talking about the semi-finals. I think a build-up would be great, but we can't blame fixtures committee. Their hands are tied, and there's only a certain window there for clubs to play games, but I suppose dual clubs will love this, but then you have the Rathnures and Owlert. They were used to playing week on, week off because they weren't playing football. So, I think it worked really well for COVID. But I'd just like to see a 1 week break between the semi-final and final anyway, I think.
We mentioned the tight window, Micheal. That means we have maybe 15 or 16, maybe 17 weeks, depending on the way a year falls, to get whatever fixtures need to be played into.
Yeah, we do. And I would argue, and we'll be making the argument to Croke Park, I think the All-Ireland Club Finals need to go back. There's this almost an obsession to try and bring it into the calendar year, which will crucify clubs. We've already congested the county season, and that's for the good of clubs. Again, let's look at it at the end of the year. There's lots of talk. Obviously, we see commentary on the Sunday game about that it's too congested, and it is. But we've only so many weeks in the year to play our games. I'd like to see, personally, I'd like to see maybe the All Irelands go out another couple of weeks as well. But I'd like to see the Club All Ireland go back. And you know what? I was thinking about this. It used to be played on 17th of March, obviously, on Paddy's Day. Well, we've a new bank holiday now in February, bank holiday Monday in February. Maybe that's the landing space for a push back our semi-finals into the month of January. Like the All Ireland Club semi-final this year is the 2nd of December. That's just too early in my book. I think counties not every county has the same scenario we have in terms of the dual element, but quite a few do. So we're squeezed. We effectively have 16 weeks. And we're right up to that window by having, and that's why the executive brought forward a different proposal. But by having groups of 6, you're going to have midweek games. You're going to have, and this was all agreed, you're going to have matches on the same day as an All-Ireland hurling final, football final, and unfortunately this year as well. And well done to our ladies who were involved, but there'll be matches on that Sunday as well. So it's a real challenge to fit it all in. We're using the window to the maximum, but I do think the only way to solve it is for Croke Park to push back a little bit at the other end.
And that would make an awful difference, because instead of having to have the championships played by the middle of October, if we had the next 2 weeks after that to play it, it would allow a little bit more flexibility. We have lights going into Wexford Park soon, and the
County should be getting,
be there.
County should be getting till Halloween. In my opinion, County should be getting to Halloween, and that would, every week. And again, I know from managing teams, and players obviously don't have to, they don't have to think about the fixture schedule, but from a fixture planning point of view, or fixtures committee, every week is absolutely important. I agree with Ed. We would love to have a bigger lead into your county final, so you can you can have a build up, you can have a promotion around it, but the way things are at the moment, it's literally week on week. It's intense. It's great for players to an extent, but if you pick up an injury, you're missing a big element of that. So there's pros and cons of the system we have at the moment, but we're working at the moment within what's in our control. We're going to need, I think, further outside help from Croke Park, and then we do need to look again at whether we go back to alternate weekends, football, hurling, or whether we keep our split season. Effectively, our county final will be played on the 14th of August this year. Is that too early to be finishing your adult hurling season? Personally, I think it might be, to be honest.
I think, Ed, you alluded to that there when you referenced to the likes of Rathnure and Owlert, and I suppose to a lesser extent Buffer's Alley maybe might be a good bit more focused on hurling than they are on football. On the other side, if it was football first, you'd have clubs like the Volunteers and St Joseph's, and they'd be in the same boat. What would you...
Yeah, you know, just one club that springs to mind, like Gusran have made huge strides in hurling. I don't believe they would have done that if it was week on, week off, hurling 1 week, football the next week. So we're seeing a lot of that in hurling, you know. Clubs like that are coming up. The Horsewoods are back. Of course, they have a great tradition of hurling from the 60s, but they're back in the mix now as well. So it definitely has helped them clubs, you know. But you know, it's very easy to identify the problem. It's finding a solution is the problem, and the problem is there's not enough weeks in the year with the format of the inter-county season, and maybe we have to go back to groups of 4. I don't know. Personally, I think groups of 4 probably would be the way forward myself, to give some players 1 week off in the middle of the championship. If you get an injury, even a slight injury now, Peter, your whole year is over, like, you know, and that's very hard for a player to take, you know.
Yeah, if you have a player that gets an injury, I suppose that takes 4 or 5 weeks to heal, I suppose a reasonable injury, if it comes at the wrong time, they've missed the whole championship, whereas in the previous format, week on, week off, they might have missed a game or two in their favourite code, and they're back in time for the knockout stages, Micheal.
Yeah, and as Ed said, it's easy to spot the problems. Within a dual county such as ours, it's very hard to come and particularly find a consensus that everyone will agree on. Definitely that's one of the drawbacks, that the condensed nature of the split hurling football, injuries, and we've seen that, you know, I know Rathnure, for example, have injuries at the moment to key players. Potentially you'll be getting them back for the last couple of rounds within the other system. As I say, we propose the groups of 3 for a few reasons, but one of them as well is, yes, players are congested, but the actual administration of this, and you'll even see it from a Wexford GAA TV point of view, trying to capture all the games, like the administrative burden to actually run off this programme of games, gate persons, stewards, referees, linespersons. Someone approached me in Wexford Park last Friday night saying, why isn't this gate open? Like, we have literally hundreds of people that you need, but we don't have them to run, say, 12 games all at the same time in various venues. So it's a debate that goes on and on. But what I would say is, and I think we started the process last year, is I would imagine that players at the end of the season will go back to their clubs and give very frank feedback that either this worked or this didn't work, so that we will eventually land on maybe not the perfect solution, but a more ideal solution that suits Wexford.
Would it be fair to say that there are 4 options, if the 2 groups of 6 will say is the format, that there will be 4 options? You have hurling first as one option, football first is another option, week on, week off is a third option, and maybe a fourth option would be 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. Would that be a fair summation of the 4 most possible debates, I suppose, of formats, Micheal?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that sums it up. And obviously, say lights in Wexford Park will add to your options a small bit. And I think, as I say, personally, if we're going with the groups of 6, I think maybe alternate weekends might be a better solution, or as you say, groups. But I say finding that consensus is going to be difficult.
Yeah, it's always very difficult to find a consensus. What? Just finally, then, what will be the process then? I presume towards the end of the season there'll be a chance for players to give feedback to County Board, and a chance for clubs to give feedback, and there'll be a debate every year, no doubt, on championship formats. But what way do you see it working out?
So our November County Board meeting is the decision making meeting for the following year, every year. This year it was pushed back because of COVID to February. So what we'll do is straight after the county finals, because the county final I think is the 16th, football final is the 16th of October. Straight after the county finals, we'll be looking for player feedback. We did have as you know, we had a committee last year that involved players, dual and single code players, and once we get that feedback, then we will, I suppose, engage with the clubs. But most important here is that the players in the first instance engage with the clubs, that the clubs that are making a decision based on player and management. It's not just players, because obviously it takes management and committees at club level, but that the club is giving, I suppose, is given the view of the county board delegate is given the view of the club at that particular meeting. And again, as I say, consensus you're never going to have 100% consensus, but hopefully we'll land on the perfect solution. And I suppose the one thing to say is that the quality of what we've seen over the last 3 weeks has been really, really good, and attendances and interest in the games has been very high.